Hello and good day everyone! For today's update, I worked first on task number 1, which is the WSoft blog. This has been my main focus today, and I'll walk you through the details of what I was able to complete. One of the key things I worked on was the authentication for the API. I set up Sanctum for the authentication of the items, making sure that every request going into the system is properly checked and secured. This step is important because without it, the blog would allow open access, which is not safe for data or for users. For this setup, we now need to perform a login before we can access or fetch any posts. For example, if we want to retrieve all posts, the system requires authentication first. Only after logging in are we issued a token, and that token proves that we are properly authenticated. In the GET request that we use, you can see that we are relying on authentication with a bearer, or more specifically, a bearer token. This token is included in the header of the request and acts as proof that the user has been logged in. When you click send with the token attached, the request succeeds and you can retrieve all of the blog information as well as other related items. The data is returned correctly and everything works the way it should. But if you don't include authentication, you'll notice an error message. It will say method not allowed because you are not authenticated. That error means the system has rejected your request since you tried to fetch data without logging in or providing credentials. So we need to make sure that a bearer token is always present for every API call. This rule applies to all API information and all of the data that is being fetched with the blog. It is true not only for fetching all data, but also for fetching individual data. For example, even if you just want one single post, authentication is still required. In short, authentication is required for everything. That was one of the first and most important improvements I worked on today. Another major task I handled was Dockerizing the container for Lingrid. I took the application and packaged it inside a Docker container so that it can be used in a consistent and reliable way. So this is now the Lingrid Docker container. It has been Dockerized successfully, and as you can see, it includes all of the files and items needed for development. This container is already fully functional, and it is ready for deployment. My plan is to deploy it tomorrow so that it can be tested and reviewed. However, while preparing the deployment, I did encounter one issue. The deployer was not able to pull out the Git information from the main page, or more specifically from the main branch of the repository. This is something that I still need to fix. The problem is similar to how Centaurix behaves when connecting to a server without the correct setup. But aside from this issue, everything else is working as expected. So overall, with all of the items now included, we have created a Docker container that works. This container contains the same information and follows the same process as the way we built the application before with next.js. The difference is that now it runs inside Docker, which makes it easier to deploy and maintain. I also updated the Lingrid repository. The repository now includes all of the items along with a README file. This README explains how to load the project and how to set up Docker properly. Previously, what we usually had was just the setup for next.js. Now, the README has been expanded with instructions on how to build the project using Docker Compose. Once the container is built, all you need to do is run the command docker compose up. This command starts building the project inside the Docker containers. As it runs, you can see the build process step by step. This is a big improvement for future developers. Anyone who wants to clone the project and work on it on their own machine can now do so easily. They can simply run it inside the Docker environment without having to worry about missing dependencies or configuration issues. Everything is already set up inside the container. And yes, I think that's most of the progress from my side for the WSoft blog. I will move forward with deployment today so that it can be reviewed by Sir Zedrix tomorrow. For other items related to Lingrid, since I have finalized the container, I will now proceed with documentation. This will include not only the development documentation, but also technical documentation. In addition, I will document the workflow and the process we are following. All of this documentation is important to ensure that the project can be maintained and understood by others in the future. That's all for my update today. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. If the video was helpful, please give it a like, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.